where the event was 37 minutes late. He thought he was going to debate Vice President Kamala Harris. I mean, he walks out. The ABC anchor, Rachel, didn't say, "Welcome, Mr. President. Thank you for joining us." So disrespectful. Went right into her agenda about DEI, whether Kamala Harris is black or the Indian, and it's so irrelevant considering the issues that we're facing in this world. Who cares? And all of a sudden, they turn it in about race and about issues that continue to divide us. The fact that Trump showed up to that event, he put his policies out there. The only thing you hear from the mainstream media is he insults her, is disrespectful, and this is what people are talking about. And this country's on the cliff.
Yeah, well, I agree wholeheartedly with your sentiment, and I really, I mean, I know I've said this to you before. There's a lot of people in this country who want to control us, that keep trying to divide us along lines of race, ethnicity, sexuality, yada, yada. While the real division in this country is between most of us who are trying just to pay the rent, or, you know, God forbid, and just living in fear that the refrigerator or the dishwasher break down, or the washing machine, because they can't afford to fix it. Between those people and these oligarchs who think they own the country, it's average Americans against these guys who have basically hijacked the republic. And to Trump's credit, if you take the time and you're listening to him, he is speaking to the vast majority of Americans. And to them, he's saying, your country doesn't work for you anymore, and we're going to change that. And I think when you see his choice of J.D. Vance, I think you can see, him putting his money where his mouth is, if you will. I mean, here's a guy who came straight out of Appalachia in a totally dysfunctional childhood and was about one step away from just spending the rest of his life, cycling in and out of jail cells, to being fortunate enough with help from family to escape that cycle. And unfortunately, that's where, I don't care if you're black, white, brown, whatever, that's where way, way too many Americans are. I'm in rural Pennsylvania, small town Pennsylvania. That every town has a mill that's closed a long time ago, and the only business left downtown is a dollar store, and people are hanging on by their fingernails. It shocks me, honestly. I don't know if it shocks me because I'm used to it, but it still appalls me to see people at this event that you're talking about attacking him with this kind of hostility, like you're required through some sort of racial loyalty to support Kamala, who has now settled on the fact that she's black, I guess. And you and I both know, look, I've spent a lot of time in Baltimore. Let's use it as an example. I went to school there, went to law school there, lived in the city for years. Good Lord, you can walk into big chunks of what used to be one of the greatest cities in the United States and see nothing but wreckage. Not a business in sight. The schools might as well close because they're not educating anybody. Crime is out of control. That's 70 plus years of democratic rule. But you're somehow required to continue to vote for those people? Like you're ordered to vote for them so they can continue to abuse you? I mean, it's disgusting.
And what they're going to say today about today's broadcast, you didn't talk about this felon, you didn't talk about Trump, you didn't talk about that. We know who Trump is. We don't have to talk about Trump. We know what he is. We know what he stands for. It's the same Trump that went to Chicago and said what he said and was unapologetic. We know exactly what we're getting. We don't know who Kamala Harris is. We don't. We don't know her policies. We know she's progressive. She doesn't know we don't know she's moving towards the middle. And all I know is that I saw her in Atlanta faking that Southern accent, which was absolutely offensive. Her standing there faking some Southern accent. I mean, the gall. Yes. And we cannot ask, tell us your policy. I don't care about your being a woman and your race. What are your policies? Where are you taking the United States of America? I know there's a lot of passion on today's show is because we care. And I refuse as a commentator and a broadcast owner to be put in a box. Our job, Sam, is to ask the tough question. We have too much at stake to give anybody a pass. in this presidential election?
Yeah, 100%. You're running for office. So who the hell are you? What qualifies you to be the president? What exactly do you plan on doing? Stop telling me based on where my ancestors came from or any of this other crap or my sexual orientation who I must vote for. Answer some freaking questions and tell us something. We just on the foreign policy standpoint, the national security standpoint, which is one piece of the puzzle, right? But I bring it up because that's where we started. We're in a world of hurt. We're standing on the brink of losing a major conventional war. In fact, the Congressional Commission just issued a report the other day that said, in effect, we will lose the next major conventional war because our military is in that bad a shape. And we just saw what the Secret Service is capable of at Butler. We could go on down this list. This is crunch time. So I don't need your silliness and your nonsense, and you're telling me that because of this, I am required to vote for you. Answer some friggin' questions. It's supposed to be a giant job interview, and you're supposed to, by the way, work for us. So how about you answer our
questions? Sam Faddis, just answer the questions. Where do you stand? What is it you believe? That's fair. I'm Sir Williams. Thank you, Sam, for joining us.
Until just recently.
I just need to respond because the former president has said something twice that I need to respond to.
I'm sorry. We're gonna move on, Vice President Harris. President Trump, this is now your third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it, and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, You don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice President Harris,
in terms of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot of...
You made a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare. Much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to give. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said the climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. They're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
And the other that is focused on the past and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so
We want to go back to your past 4
and we
years.
can chart a new way forward. And
Oh.
a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses,
Yeah,
in
right.
families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the
We
world.
don't.
I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all
He's not putting
Americans
himself first.
and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris,
Really?
thank you. President Trump.
Well, they pay higher
So she
taxes.
just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
A national abortion ban that can't, which he pointed out, can't be passed because there's not enough votes in the Senate. You need 60 votes.